Okay, good morning, Year 8. We are going to be working with one of our photos today, and we're going to be creating something that looks like this. Okay, we're going to be creating a David Hockney style photo montage using one of our photos. If I was to jump over onto Google Classroom and our tutorial, your teacher will have shared this with you. So we're going to be looking at something that looks like this. In this tutorial, you can see there's written instructions. So what I'm going to be doing here is showing you the physical demo in Photoshop, okay, which hopefully should make a little bit more sense to some of you. Okay, let's jump over to Photoshop. So I want you to pick your favorite image from the photos that you took. This is obviously one that I've taken from Coogee Beach, now on a lovely sunny day. Now, when you open up the photo in Photoshop, so you can go to File, Open, or you can open it from your Windows Explorer window. Now we can see that it is locked. We want to unlock that, so we double click, press OK. And sometimes there's a little symbol down here on photos that we upload. It means that it needs to be rasterized. Mine doesn't, but if in case you see a little symbol sitting here in the bottom right, I need you to right click and go to rasterize, okay, which is just here. Right, we're ready to work. Now, first thing we should do, now mine doesn't need much adjustments because it's a lovely image with some really nice lighting and it's nice and bright, but some of your photos that I looked through were a little bit wishy-washy grey and they needed a little bit of spruce up with brightness and contrast. We're going to use something called levels though. Image, adjustments, levels. Now what this does, it allows you to modify the shadows or the blacks, the midtones or the greys, and the whites or the highlights. So look what we can do. Sometimes an image needs some more blacks or some more shadows. Sometimes an image needs some more midtones. So when I was saying to some of you in your perspective drawing, a good drawing should have a range of tones. So we should have darks, mids, and in-betweens, and shadows. Okay, so you can see if I pull the grey, it will affect the midtones. If I pull the black, the shadows, and the whites, the highlights. So have a little play with that until you're happy with the exposure of your image, and it hopefully should make a nice difference to your image. So that was image, adjustments, levels. I'm going to press OK. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is open up a new file, but what's important, as it says in this tutorial, it needs to be the same size as this source image. So we're going to check the size of this image. Go to Image, Image Size. What have we got here? So we have a 20 centimeter by 15 centimeter image that is 300 resolution. Okay, 300 means that it's ready to be printed. Okay, so look, you might want to copy these and change them to similar to mine if yours are a little bit strange and we're using weird numbers. So mine is 20 by 15 by 30, but of course that's for a landscape image, so holding the camera to the side. So 20, 15, 300. Right, let's go and make a new file. File, new. I'm going to go to Print because I know that sets to 300. 300 is for print. Now I'm going to change this, make sure you change it to centimeters, and mine was 20 by 15 and 300. Great. Now we know that this file here, this canvas here, is the same size as my source image. Now in order for me to work, you can see what I'm aiming to create. In order for me to work, I like to be able to pull this window away. So I'm going to click and hold and drag down, and that way we can separate the window, and that makes it a lot easier to work with. So what we need to do here is we need to think about breaking this image up into smaller images. So if you have a look at this here. Now, if we were to break it up perfectly like this image, nothing's going to happen because it's the same, it would create the same image like a puzzle. What we need to do is make it a little bit less perfect and not select number 2 directly next to number 1. But what I am going to do here is make all of my selections the same size, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you've got a vision to make them different sizes, maybe that's something you can experiment with, but I probably recommend that you make them the same size, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, let's go back to our canvas. Fantastic. So what we need to do is get our rectangular marquee tool. Now I'm going to make a selection. I'm sort of roughly thinking I'm going to make a grid of 5 by 5, 5 across and 5 down. So that looks like it could fit 5 across, and that looks like, I'm just using my fingers on the screen actually. So I'm just using my fingers to measure across. That's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to use that selection. Okay, so what we need to do, we're going to say, Photoshop, can you move this onto my new canvas? So I'm going to use the Move tool. So I'm going to click, hold, drag. All right, now I'm going to put them basically into position for now and then have a little play with them later. So now I don't want to use my Move tool, I want to move the selection. So I'm going to get my selection on my rectangular marquee tool, and you'll notice if I have this selected, it won't move the image, but it will move the selection. I'm going to make it a little less perfect. I might have a little bit of overlapping. You can see I've moved it down a little bit and it's not quite moved to the right enough. I'm going to get my Move tool now because I like to move the image. I'm going to drag that across. Now already you can see it doesn't quite match up, and that's great. Okay, we want it to match but not so much. So we want it still to look like the image but a little bit off. Okay, now we keep going and we repeat this process. So I'm going to move with my rectangular marquee tool because I don't want to move the image, I want to move the selection, and I might move it up again. Okay, and I'm going to get my Move tool because we want to move the image. You'll get used to this. You have to do it at least 25 times. Okay, now get my rectangular marquee tool, move it across, maybe move it down a little bit again. Maybe overlap that last square that I'm going to have. Move tool. Okay, important that you put it down in order because otherwise you'll be doing a puzzle later on. Get your Move tool, rectangular marquee, pop it up in the corner. There's my top row done. And move it across. All right. So I'm going to do one more row, then I might pause the video so you don't have to watch every single little bit. Okay, rectangular marquee tool, move it down now. That looks like it'd be perfect, so I'm just going to move it up, across and up a little bit so it's not so perfect. Move tool, across. Okay, a rectangular marquee. So in my mind, I'm imagining I'm on the second row. I'm on the second row, and I'm the second square across. Okay, second row, third across. So somewhere in the middle there. You can see it's sort of piecing together, but we're going to move them around as well. Okay, now I'm in the second row, fourth across. Second row, fifth across. Okay, so we repeat this process until we've finished all of our rows. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, you're right. So this is what I have prepared. You can see I've taken my 25 snippets from my image. Okay, so I've taken it over from here. I don't need this anymore. I'm just might pop it back up the top. Okay, and jump back over to my new canvas. Right, so there's definitely some tweaking we need to do to be able to make it look like this. So we've got all our images in, which is fantastic. I'm going to make all of them smaller so I can leave that lovely sort of white border around it. So to make them all smaller, you click on the bottom layer and you hold down Shift and you click on the top layer. Hold down Shift, top. So they're all selected in between. Now I'm going to press Ctrl T because that means transform or resize. Now I don't need to hold down Shift, and I'm just going to reduce the size so it looks something like that. That's a pretty good border there. Right, now this process is a bit lengthy too and a little bit fiddly, so you do have to change the order of things as well. So I'm just going to click off. Okay, so I'm going to start placing them now over the top of each other. And now I can use my arrow keys as well. So I'm just trying to make them match but not match. You can see that sort of matches up the flower, but we can still see that lovely line there. I might make that one match up. That looks kind of cool because we can see that it doesn't match up with this border here. Okay. So it's about taking piece by piece and making it match but not match. There will be points that you want to change the order of things. There you go. That's a little bit too matchy, I think. We might just pull that down. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yep. And right. Okay. So this does take a bit of time. Now, I don't want to match that whole sort of whitewash. I want to make it look like it jumps. That's looking kind of cool. Matching but not matching. I did struggle with this task, to be honest, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I like things to be lining up. So it does take a little bit of work. So you can see I'm just sort of moving and having a little bit of a play. That probably needs to move up, that one. And trying to get that sort of uneven border around it's kind of cool as well. Now the next thing you might notice that don't leave any white gaps as well in the middle. I pull that down, push that up, push this one up. Yeah, don't leave any white gaps in the middle. That like this one here, you can see I do have a railing anyway. Now I feel like I need to pull this one underneath, so I'm just going to go over to my layers palette and drag it down. That's better. And pull that one underneath. Okay. So what I did next in my tutorial, in my own image, I pressed Control T on certain images and I just rotated them. So I felt like maybe this one here, Control T. So you can see I'm right clicking and clicking the layer, or usually it just self-selects anyway. Don't resize. Maybe just see if you can get some interesting rotations with your work. I think I might have over-rotated there. Okay, I'm just going to pause it and finish some rotation. Okay, so I've done a couple of rotations in there. I can see I might change the order of some of these. Let me just bring that on top. Sometimes there's that's better. Sometimes there's a part of an image hidden underneath another image you might want to bring up on top because we've lost it. So that's looking good. So remember, you can reorder. Now, the last thing I did just to make things really interesting was I thought, okay, why don't I select part of the image, like this one, maybe this middle one, layer 12, image, adjustments, brightness, contrast. So go and change the contrast and the exposure. You could also use levels here of some of these images. So press OK. Maybe, what's another good looking one? Let's do this one here. Layer 14, image, adjustments, brightness and contrast. Okay, so I did it to sort of random ones sort of spaced out in between my, and you can also make them darker if you wanted to. You can see there I might need to go and rearrange those layers. I might bring that one on top. There you go, that's looking better. I'm going to pause it again and do a few more little bits. And lastly, I'm going to add some drop shadow. So I'm going to click on some of my layers, go to Effects, go to Drop Shadow. Now my settings are a multiply and I might change. So can you see my drop shadow down here? I'm just going to change the angle. You can play around with these until you're happy with something, but there's a little drop shadow down there. Press OK. Now I'm going to go and add some drop shadows again, maybe to this one. And it should keep your pre-settings. There you go. You can see my drop shadows in there. Press OK. I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, and there you have it, Year 8. Here's your Hockney-inspired photo montage. So I've just gone through and added some more drop shadows you can see scattered around. And I've just had to reorder some of the layers. It's great if you bring the drop shadow ones up on top so you can see the whole image. So you just click